Welcome into Before Floor. Wow, that snuck up on me. Welcome into Before Floor. So is Ted. Section 5 on the floor here on the 5 Rated Sports Network,
Incredible.
the YouTube channel. Thanks for joining us. I'm off to a tiny start that sort of follows the Heat's finish last night. Sponsored, as always, by our friends over at Pregame Bay Brewing. Make sure you ask for it by name. I'm partial to the Tropical Bay IPA, but Marlins Lager is also excellent. You can get it at the Marlins Stadium. I'm not going to actually call it by its actual name. Or at the Heat Arena, which I still call American Airlines Arena. So you can find it in either of those two places. But also, you can find it at Publix, Whole Foods, and you can find the location on their website. Also, insurancebyLynette.com, our good friend, our follower, our commenter. She lives and dies with the Heat like you do. So reach out to her if you need life insurance. That was quite a segue. 954-581-8800, 954-581-8800. Again, it's A-Aggressive Insurance. You just call her. She'll set you up. I had to help somebody out, and I called and put her right on the phone, and we got that thing done. So 954-581-8800, the insurance agency that works for you. That's our friend Lynette. All right, let's get to it. Boy, yesterday was bad. Greg, so bad that Greg fell asleep during it. And,
this is true.
Alex
You didn't
and I
miss
potted
anything.
for only 13 minutes because that's all we felt it deserved. But before we get to Brady and the daily update of who's not playing, let's do a little bit of a post-mortem on last night because I don't know. Were any of you guys on the post-up? I didn't watch the post-up last night. Were Jonathan and Ricky on the post-up?
Nope.
Okay, so
Shabbat shalom, baby.
Shabbat shalom. All right, so, I mean, can we each do this in 20 seconds or less? Okay, I'm going to give each of you 20 seconds to describe what it is that you saw last night. Greg, did you actually see the whole thing? I don't know.
Yeah. I did.
All right, then go. What if I had given you 20 seconds on the pod last night?
I would have screamed. I am so at a loss for words with this team. The minute that I think they're turning a corner, and I feel like it's the stride that they cannot, like, there's no more bullshit you can say in press conferences about being aggressive or that, I still am in with my guys. Like, I read all the Jimmy and Bam's comments. Like, it's all bullshit now. If you don't win, it's bullshit. And, like, I'm at a point where, like they're losing to the Hawks and they don't even have their best players on the court. Teams are, like, preparing for the playoffs, and we're struggling against them and losing. So, like, at this point, I'm out of answers.
Jonathan, I watched the Knicks today, and that's a team that looks like it cares. Like, whatever you think of their talent, I didn't go to Ricky on this. I will admit it. Whatever you think of their talent, whether you think that Julius Randle is kind of a flash in the pan, it's not going to last after they pay him, or maybe that R.J. Barrett wasn't the best pick at number 3, or Derrick Rose's knees are going to break at any minute. Whatever you think of them, they care. They're playing their roles. They're disciplined. They're playing hard. They look like the Heat last year. What the hell happened to the Heat?
Are you going to me or Ricky on this one?
No, go ahead. Answer that.
Jonathan,
Answer that.
Jonathan, go ahead.
I'm listening.
Well, I mean, I feel like we were happy with what happened last year, right? It almost seemed like we overachieved last year, and that last year was supposed to carry over to this year. And it just didn't, right? Some of the players didn't show up this year. Unfortunate for Goran that the injury has affected him a lot more than we expected. We didn't see the leap from Tyler Hero, and we're not seeing consistency or the heart and the Heat culture. Like, there's no Heat culture this season. It's all bullshit this season, like Greg said, because they're not winning. The Heat culture doesn't mean shit. So I agree with Greg, man. It's inconsistent. It's consistently inconsistent. I think, like Ariel said.
Well, not just Ariel. Jimmy Butler said that too. Consistently inconsistent. We'll go to Brady here in a second. Ricky, without divulging too much of the Knicks, like certain teams, they develop a personality, and they can carry that personality a long way. And that's when we talk about chemistry. But chemistry comes from winning. I don't feel this Heat team has really cared that much from the beginning. And I don't know if it's because of the circumstances at the beginning of the year, the short break, the COVID, the setbacks. They kind of felt like the world was against them. They couldn't get any traction. But there's like a woe is me element to this team that I think is now sort of it's bled into the way they play. They look like they don't want to be there. Like, right? I mean, is that fair?
Yeah, well, I think at this point, I've actually been saying this all season. Of course, those circumstances that you mentioned certainly do play a part, and it hurts especially badly when you are a team that overachieved. Realistically, when we were going into last season, the second round was considered, amazing year, great job, all that, but then circumstances factored in, and next thing you know, we're beating the Bucks and then the Celtics, teams that should have just waxed us last year. And then this year, Heat fans and maybe some of the players alike didn't quite understand what last year really meant and what really went into that. So look, I know it's easy. I guess I'm the token Knicks fan on this in this network. But here's the thing:
in a Heat jersey.
Yeah, go figure, right?
Right.
Right. But so like at this point, it's just look. When you look at the Knicks bench, the way they're celebrating late in games, when you see Derrick Rose, who has been healthy the last few years, even dropped 50 as a member of the Wolves, so he has to have something. He has to have something left. A lot of what we see this season, you're just looking at a very tired, inconsistent Heat team that is unfortunately getting older, and the young guys aren't coming up to meet the aging core that this Heat team once relied upon. Goran Dragic is 35 years old almost, if he isn't already, and Tyler Hero isn't where he needs to be yet, and neither is Bam. The game winner a couple days ago was nice, but what happened last night? 9 points through three quarters. You guys don't need me to say it. Y'all saw it.
Yeah. Well, Brady, I tweeted something today, and I was curious for your thoughts on it, because every night we talk about random scrub Heat killers, right? And it is ultimately a sign of disrespect, right? I mean, it's basically Heat fans. It goes back to the Big Three era when the Heat were a juggernaut, and it was Heat fans basically saying, these guys should not be on the floor with this Big Three Heat team, and yet they're doing this night, they don't do it the next night, right? The John Hensons of the world, the Wayne Ellingtons of the world. He was a random scrub Heat killer, right? Like, we talked about him in that way. It's pejorative. It's diminishing, right? But aren't we at the point where they're against this team? If there's a random scrub Heat killer every night, and not only are they pushing them like they did in the Big Three era, but they're beating them, okay? Is it possible that maybe they're not the scrubs and the guys guarding them are? Because it seems to be the same damn position every night. It's Dylan Brooks. It's I was going to say Tony Delk. Okay, the other guy on Charlotte. You know what I'm talking. Malik Monk. Okay, it's whoever the hell it was last night, Goodwin, that Greg identified in the pregame show. Okay. I mean, is it possible that the Heat just have scrub defenders at those positions?
Yeah, definitely. No, I do. I think it does. And by the way, I think it'll be Thomas Sadaransky tonight. That just feels like the position, the backup guard. That just all kind of fits. But Goran and Hero are the guys that are getting labeled, and rightfully so. I think it's partly not on them. I think as we're talking about it, it's on the Heat. There's an unrealistic expectation heading into this season for Tyler Hero. They were expecting a leap from him that just really wasn't, where he's at the moment. He had a great bubble run, different things like that, but this is not where he is, that he's going to take over games in that type of situation where, he's having big shots in fourth quarters, but that's not where he's at. And Goran, obviously, we harp on the age thing, but, this was 9 months after, a bubble run that was really, pretty historic for him in his career and everything like that. And I don't think a 9 month span is doing this. I think there's some other, factors in there. We talked about the rest he got before that bubble, different things. But there's just something there that the Heat just didn't expect this. We were talking about there going to being, one of the best backcourt, backup backcourts in the league. And then now we're seeing what's going on defensively. And, I do think that plays a big part in what we're seeing, with these guys just basically going off, because you're seeing these, blitzing schemes on star players. But when you're playing a Hawks team with no star player, it's just neutral, and it's just like anybody's night.
Yeah, that's a great point, Brady. I do think the thing Eric Reed making excuses that they let down when these players were out last night, I don't really like to hear that, because Eric knows that that's bullshit. Like, I keep using that word today. Like, the good teams don't do that, okay?
Yeah, we're playing the Bulls. It fits.
Right. Well, no, true. But I do think that the point that Brady just made there that is true is I do think that the way Spoelstra designs his defense is to take somebody away, okay? We saw the way that they blitzed Trae Young, right? They got him out of this game. They've done this before. When they don't have stars on the other side, it's like the Heat don't know how to defend anymore. Like, it's just when it could come from anywhere. And to be honest with you, and I hate to say this is kind of a Spo trait for years. I think one of the reasons that the Spurs destroyed them in the 14 finals
Ball
was
movement.
because they just had ball movement and shooting from everywhere. You couldn't if that had been a Spurs team that was Tim Duncan dominant, okay, like previous Spurs teams, or like a Spurs team that was Kawhi dominant, like post 2014. I actually think Spoelstra would have done a better job against them. He doesn't do as good a job against teams where it could just come from anywhere. I think in a lot of ways this is a Spo problem. Now, some of it is, I know people are going to be stunned to hear me actually say that, okay? But, I do think in some ways it's a Spo problem because it's a consistent pattern through the years. And it's almost like his attitude as well, if they beat us from everywhere, we're still going to have enough to win because we've got a couple guys that are better. But if Bam and Jimmy are not aggressive, then that's a problem. The other thing is, let's go to this. I got a text today. I know we're not talking about this game. We know Vucevic is going for 35. And Levine's not playing in either game, so probably, like I said, Satoransky will combine for 50 in 2 games. But I got a text from somebody associated with the team today who said this, and not with the team, but with a player. Said, what other team in the league's 2 best players can't shoot threes right now? What other competitive team in the league has 2 guys? Philly, maybe?
It's not the Knicks.
I mean, would you consider Gobert for Utah? I mean, Donovan can shoot the 3, but Gobert can't. Is it half and half count, or are you talking 2 guys that can't completely? You know what I mean?
I'm talking about 2 guys that, I mean, you look at the 3-point, it's Duncan and it's Nunn, right, pretty much at the top, and then Brown's at about 35%, and Hero's a little bit below that. But Bam and Jimmy are in the 20s. I mean, they're not 3-point shooters. We know that. How many other elite teams in the league have 2 guys, they're 2 top guys who can't shoot threes? Because I was talking to Alex about this on the pod last night. It's like if Duncan doesn't have a good game from 3, they're screwed. Like, they're so reliant on Duncan.
And it's their defense as well.
Right.
Their defense, if their defense isn't clicking like it was last night, they rely on defense to offense, basically fast break points or just, creating those type of opportunities. And when their defense is, just allowing points after points and they have to set up half-court offense, you just see everything, go down the tube.
I don't know about Philly.
There was a super chat comment that came in. I'll have you pull that back at Jason's comment. On any other team, a coach that's had as poor season as this with players like Bam and Jimmy on the team would be on the hot seat. I actually think that's fair. I mean, if this was in a vacuum, if you didn't have the past 12 years, if you didn't have what happened in the bubble last year, if you just evaluated performance this year, yeah, I mean, coaches get fired all the time. Like, it's not happening, people.
No.
It's not happening. Never.
Jeez, no.
Okay? But I'm just saying, like, they get, I mean, and I do wonder, and I think this is a fair point, and I'll go to anybody on this. There was a big coaching staff change this year, and I just wonder how much Spo misses Dan Craig. I
think it matters. I think that we have to point to it at this point. Like, you asked that question, and I immediately went to Utah because I heard someone say Gobert's name. Like, but they have, like, Ingles is shooting 50% from 3. I don't know how many attempts. Conley 41%. Donovan Mitchell 39%. So it's like a situation where if your 2 top guys are not going to shoot well, you better have like a whole bunch of guys that are shooting 37% or better. And the Heat haven't just got that this year. And to your to the thing about the coaching, I don't know, like Juwan Howard was the coach of the defense. I always felt like Dan Craig was more the coach of the offense, like in terms of what they focused on. We've seen the offense take a dip this year. I don't know how much connection there is to that. But it's a weird year, and it's tough to point fingers. But, like, ultimately, who are we going to point fingers at? Like, at some point, it can't be like the 21-year-old kid and the 35-year-old guard. Like, at some point, you got to look like square in the eyes of the guys who are leading this bunch.
Well, you mentioned
Greg.
Go ahead, Ricky.
Greg, can I push back just a slight bit on the numbers that you were giving with Utah, right? Because as you were doing that, I was looking at the Heat's shooting numbers just to see where we measure up, and I'm just using this from thescore.com. Let's see. From 3, you have Duncan Robinson who's shooting 40%, Tyler Hero 34%, Kendrick Nunn 38%, Goran, Goran's at 35, and Trevor Ariza, who's a recent addition, 37.5. I understand where you're coming from, though, with regards to that, because the Utah Jazz have been consistent with the way they've been playing all season. So it's easier for those guys to do what they're doing when, in reality, we're depending a lot before Vic came on Duncan Robinson with like those little pin-ups and the dribble handoffs and all that other stuff. So
but
it's
to that
important.
Point,
yeah.
To that point, you mentioned Goran and Hero in particular. I bet you the guys they're guarding are shooting better percentages from three than they are.
Yeah.
See, and that's again part of the problem here, right? Like, I mean, they have to be really good offensively to justify the way they play defensively. That's the issue. And when Goran can't turn the corner anymore, and Hero is incredibly inconsistent, then I mean, Goran and Hero are out tonight, Jonathan. And honestly, I don't even think it's a loss. Like, right? I mean, Brady. I mean, I almost think they're better off, like giving Vincent and Strus some of these minutes and just trusting Kendrick a little bit more. Like,
at least for one night.
For one night, right? Yep. For one night.
I mean, you're right. Like in a one-night vacuum, this gives you a lot more defense. And I think with that defense, we can create more offense. The problem with our defense is it's so porous. It doesn't allow us to get back on get back on defense or get back on offense and start with an advantage, right? They're always setting up against a set defense. So I think just having a well-rounded defended team, we already have a decent big and Bam Adebayo decent, right? With Bam Adebayo, who's a big, Jimmy Butler, who can guard the wing. Throw a combination of Kendrick Nunn and Gabe Vincent out there and see what they can do against, the opposing guards, and maybe they can slow them down. And maybe that more defensive mindset of the game will create more offense moving forward.
Something's crashing in the background. It's the Heat in the standings.
Yeah. There was a question, if I could. There was a question. I don't know. I think it might have been Alejandro that put it on the not the ticker, but the thing where it was like with 12 games left.
Ricky, I wanted you to finish that thought. Ben, don't even give voice to that. Okay, I saw that comment. Don't even give voice to that. Okay, go ahead, Ricky. I'm sorry.
I see exactly what you mean. Yeah, this one. You see, the thing that concerns me is that after the Vic trade, I said that the Heat will finish no better than no better than fifth. But realistically, talent-wise, they're no worse than fourth. The thing with this is, with the way Miami's been playing in the last few weeks, or the last few games even, and I know the comments love comparing the Knicks and the Heat and all that other stuff. Who do you trust more to finish these last 12 games, say 9-3 or 8-4 versus Miami?
Oh, the Heat.
But here's the thing. I do think. Okay, but Ricky, I do think there's a little bit of recency bias because it's real recent because the Heat did just win 2 games by 20 or more before they dropped this last one. So, but here's why I say more likely the Knicks, and I'll agree I'll disagree with Greg because the Knicks are getting to their game. They know what their game is every night. Sometimes it's not going to be good enough because they don't have enough shooting, they don't have enough scoring, but they know what their game is, right? Okay. The Heat, I have no idea what the Heat's game is right now. And I don't know who it was on Twitter who put this up, but basically their efficiency is like here one game and here the next. There's no middle ground. It's like you're getting this or you're getting this. They don't know. That's the point that Jimmy's making, and I think a lot of that comes from it. Jason, again, thank you for the super chats. Anybody wants to give us a super chat comment, we obviously read all those. Well, we realize that Bam needs to be more of a scorer for this team to be successful. Best coach in the league keeps saying Bam doesn't need to. I will say this. I don't think that's what Spo says behind the scenes. What Spo says publicly is not what he typically says behind the scenes. I think that's trying to take pressure off of Bam publicly. I'm guessing with some background knowledge here that they've been on Bam about this, okay? But again, he had 6 shots in the last game, right? Is that the second time now? Is that what he ended up with? 6, I think?
Something close to that, if not that exact number.
Brady, what is it? We'll close here. What to you is the sweet spot for shots and free throws for Bam and Jimmy?
Closet.
This just feels like this, final stretch. As much as we talk about Bam stepping up, we've been talking about it since the beginning of the year. This just feels like a Jimmy stretch. We were talking about, giving him last games to kind of ease into a playoff run and things like that. But it's getting to a point now where it just feels like Jimmy's just going to just take over games, where he's going to just go on a bit of a run and leave everybody behind. Just being in these, type of post-game calls, if we're looking in the past games, these bad games that they've had, I think the one game that really sticks out, just their attitude after a game was Jimmy Butler after Minnesota. And then the one yesterday was another one with Spo and Bam did not seem, they did not seem happy with that type of performance. And this just now feels like they're getting to a point where, if they're just not getting, a complete effort, complete consistency, it just gets to a point where Jimmy's just going to have to take over games. And it's sad because you're playing a Chicago team maybe with no Zach LaVine that we're kind of discussing this before a game, but it just seems necessary because they're going to have to get on a roll somehow and then try to find some consistency, especially in a game where you're not going to have as much scoring off the bench, and they're just going to have to find something.
Here's my concern. I think we're real close to another Jimmy Butler ankle injury or something like that. The Heat are due for another bad break here, and if you put this kind of burden on Jimmy, this is not the kind of burden that was supposed to be on Jimmy at the end of this season. It just was not, okay? And it's too much, and if they end up in a play-in situation, look, I trust Jimmy when he says just get us there because I know the way he prepares, and I know, but look, there is a certain point you stop trusting your teammates, and I don't think they've done anything to earn trust. This one comes in from okay. To be honest, I'm kind of tired of having to rely on Jimmy to get wins. Everybody needs to be better or we're out after our first play-in game. I think that's the way to close. Thanks to Jonathan. Thanks to Brady. Thanks to Ricky. Thanks to Greg. Thanks to Alejandro, our producer. Hang in here. Greg's going to try to stay awake tonight. You better, because I might not. Okay, so somebody has to. I don't know where the hell Alex
I'll be here.
So we'll be with you later.
I think this is your ninth
Nixon
one of these
set.
mini series. Maybe 10th. I'm not sure. What's the verdict? Do you like them? Do you not like them?
I do. You don't really see as much of a benefit maybe when you're home, but definitely on the road. If you can eliminate travel by 20-30%, I think it makes sense. I get the league, also potentially not wanting to do it in case, somebody plays somebody early in the year and they're injured and fans don't get a chance to see them later in the year, but I like it.
And I had one more for you, unrelated to tonight. I don't know how much you keep track of your former guys, but Norris's team won the Coupe de France today, the French Cup. I don't know what I'm trying to say. How much do you keep track of what former Heat guys do when they're playing overseas?
I have, but I did not know that, and that's awesome to hear. That bring a smile to my face today.
Thanks, Bo.
Next, we'll go to Jason Jackson.
Coach, a little bit more on the series model. The first game is not, particularly in the home series, have not necessarily going your way. I think 4 of the 5 were losses, and you were able to split those, except for the one with Indiana. When you think about the playoff feel of those that can be a part of this, is this something here in this last one you'd like the guys to take ownership over that home playoff mentality?
Yeah, I don't know if any of those other games have any relevance or those series to this. We're coming off a very disappointing loss last night, and that's behind us. So we're focused on bringing a much better game tonight.
Next, we'll go to Ira Winderman.
Eric, Tyler Hero being out after being back for 2 games, is that just caution in a back-to-back, or has something been re-aggravated?
Oh, you guys have the list. I'm not commenting about those guys other than what's been listed.
All right, Coach, that's it. Thank you.
All right, that was Eric Spoelstra earlier today talking about tonight's matchup between the Miami Heat and the Chicago Bulls. Let's go now to listen to Billy Donovan, the Chicago Bulls coach, who talked also about this particular game that we're going to be enjoying tonight, starting here in about 30 minutes. So let's go ahead and listen to what he said about this matchup between the Miami Heat and the Chicago Bulls.
Good evening. Second bus is still running late. Coach is on the second bus.
Actually, the team actually did a whole thing here for all the employees and family and all that too, which was.
Yeah, I mean, Tim, I think it's been pretty good, from the standpoint. There's obviously, I think, the emotional aspect you have to deal with, whether it's coming off a win or a loss. The one thing it does do is it eliminates some of the extra travel, where you're not leaving and going somewhere. You're basically playing down here twice. You're getting 2 games in, so you're not coming back to Miami the second time. It does limit some of the travel, which I think is good. But, there is a different element, I think, because usually you play a game and then you're on to the next game. But it's been very, very rare. There's been occasions during the course of the year where maybe you play somebody at home and you go back and you play them, on the road. But it is unique with the number of games. We haven't had a lot of them here lately. A lot of ours were a little bit earlier in the season. But there's certainly different dynamics to dealing with it. And I think everybody in the league's been dealing with, to your point, some of the limited travel. And when you get into a city, you're staying there and at times playing 2 games.
One follow, Billy. Everyone knows the standings. You guys are right there in that mix for 9 and 10. How much do you guys talk about that? How much you guys talk about the race and the opportunity that the play-in kind of?
Well, I think our guy, obviously our guys follow it, but I've always said, the standings are going to change, daily. What it was last week is going to be different than it was maybe next week. So the biggest thing for us is we've just got to constantly keep getting better and focus on what we've got to do. I think that's the biggest thing. Our guys understand, with whatever it is, 13 games left, that, it's going to be a great challenge. Our schedule is very, very difficult. We're playing against a lot of really good teams. This month has been a real grind, I think, for the group, just with the number of games we've had to play on the road the month of April. But overall, I think it's just a matter, we're going to have to go one game at a time, and we've obviously been up and down. I thought played, fairly well against Boston, came back, against Cleveland, didn't play well and played better against Charlotte. But, we're just going to need to be more consistent. And hopefully, we can build that out. We're in a situation now, I think, where, it's like outside after this trip, it's kind of like out for a day, back for a day, out for a day, back. So it's going to be a little bit different, where we've had some pretty extensive road trips, this month, where we've been gone for a week to 8 days. But again, I think for us with the standings, our guys know what's going on. I mean, they follow it and they know what's at stake. And we've just got to make sure that we're playing good basketball to give ourselves an opportunity to be able to play after May 16th.
Thanks, Billy. Good luck tonight.
Thank you.
Sam, go ahead.
Not so much standings, but how much of a cliche measuring stick is this? Because these next 3 games, Miami twice, New York, are sort of teams in your neighborhood of where you at least are supposed to be or feel you could be, and direct matchups with those kind of teams. How much of a measure against your teams you feel that will be?
I think Sam, certainly. One thing you realize, is on any given night, anybody can beat anybody in this league. It's hard to win. You've got to really play well. Certainly playing Miami twice here on the road, then going to New York. Both those 2 teams are playing, very good basketball. Miami obviously is coming off of the finals last year. They've obviously, like a lot of teams, have had to deal with COVID and guys being in and out, and everybody's trying to find their rhythm and their footing. But yeah, I think anytime you go against a team like this, there's no question it's a measuring stick, and you evaluate, where you're at when you go against good teams. I don't think there's any question about that. You're welcome.
All right. If we don't have any more, I'm going to let him go, and we'll see you all.
All right. That was Bill Donovan. Sorry, talking about tonight's matchup between the Miami Heat and the Chicago Bulls. Let's listen now to some of the Miami Heat players. Right after that loss last night against the Atlanta Hawks, the Miami Heat is now, let me see here, in 7th place right now. So they would be playing, if season ended today, they would be playing that little short tournament that they're doing this year, the play-in tournament, to find out who the 7th and 8th places are going to be for the playoffs. So let's go now, and let's go and listen to some of the guys here. I have Kendrick Nunn. Let's go with Kendrick Nunn first, and then we'll have Bam Adebayo and Eric Spoelstra talking about that loss against the Atlanta Hawks.
Defensively, you guys have been so good this season. What were the issues that hurt you guys tonight throughout the game?
We really just couldn't guard the ball collectively as a group. I mean, we were switching a lot, but they just didn't feel us enough. We didn't get them. We didn't get into the ball enough. All areas. I mean, it was some missed rotations. It was a little bit of everything defensively.
And the talk for most of the year has been just trying to find consistency. You guys were on a 3-game winning streak. How do you guys explain kind of these performances when everything looks like it's going so well, and then something happens like tonight?
I mean, you can't explain it. It's really unexplainable. I mean, to have consistency, it takes some discipline and a lot of focus. And I mean, we didn't lock in and focus on that end of the floor tonight.
Thanks, Kendrick.
Next, we'll go to Ira Winderman.
Kendrick, along those lines, and just how confounding it is. I mean, almost to a man, when there's a loss like this, you guys say you're better than this. We heard it also last week against Minnesota. So how does this sort of keep happening, that a team that knows it's better, that shows it could be really good at times, even when shorthanded, sort of throw in these clunkers so often?
I mean, it's just from the top from the top down.
Mm-hmm.
We gotta hold everybody accountable. Look each other in the eye and get it done as a group. That's team basketball, and that's how you win in this league. You can't do it. Can't do it individually.
Systematically, was it anything defensively, though? Was it not getting to their three-point shooters? They were also very effective at the rim. Was there anything sort of scheme-wise where guys were just off? Thank you.
I don't think it's scheme-wise. It's nothing that they didn't do anything in particular that we haven't seen. You know what I'm saying? So it was just a matter of focus tonight. Had a couple glitches, and we'll be better.
Next, we'll go to Cooper Moorhead.
Patrick, I know the defensive numbers are going to get a lot of attention, but the 14 points in the fourth quarter, whether you are on the court or you're off the court over the course of the year, when the team has these, quarter-long slumps, is there anything consistent that seems to happen in those quarters, or is it something different game by game?
I don't think it's different game by game. We pretty much see the same things. You just have to lock in and actually get it done. It's one thing to talk about it and know what you're doing, and that's another thing to actually just go out there and do it. I think that's all it really was to it.
All right, thanks, Kendrick.
Yep.
All right, that was Kendrick Nunn talking again after that loss against the Atlanta Hawks. Last night, remember, the Miami Heat lost that game and fell onto the 7th place in the standings right now. So they're in need of more wins. So let's go now and listen to another Heat player. Let's see who we have here. Let's go ahead and listen from Bam Adebayo after last night's
season about
loss
turning the corner. And then
Atlanta
you get
Hawks.
the 3-game winning streak after the loss in Minnesota, and it's looking good, and people are doing the right things. And even when you were shorthanded as a team, you found a way. And then what happens on these blips? It's happened a bunch of times this season. What stops? What winds up missing that the momentum can't continue?
Well, we get some games where we have multiple glitches. On the defensive end. Like I always say, we win games when we hold people under 110.
Was there a feeling you guys were playing with enough force tonight? I mean, they did a lot around the rim also. Obviously, when Capella's there, it's a little different sort of game. But, I mean, did you feel you sort of matched their force, or did they just bring more energy maybe because they were shorthanded?
I feel like we didn't do enough efforts, make multiple efforts on defense.
Thank you, Bam.
All right, next we go to Cooper Moorhead.
Bam, it doesn't happen every game, but there have been quite a few of these, 14, 15, 16-point quarters spread throughout the year. The team always seems to thrive on when the defense is creating offensive opportunities and kind of juicing the offense, getting you guys out into transition. When these quarter-long slumps seem to happen, is that often because the defense isn't doing its part to help the offense?
Yep. When we can't get stopped and get out of running transition, and they keep scoring, it doesn't help our offense. We want those easy buckets. We want those easy transition buckets, those random plays to where we can get a bucket or a foul. This helps our offense. So when we can't get stopped, that's when it hurts our offense.
All right, next we go to Anthony Chang.
Hey, Bam. I know you guys aren't one to make excuses, but tonight was your 7th game, I think, in 11 days. How grueling has this stretch been? How tiring has it been? And did it feel tonight like you guys were a step slow as you get to the end of this kind of busy stretch in the schedule?
I mean, you can't make no excuses for the schedule we got. So, we know the hand we're dealt, and we got to fight for that. No matter circumstances or how we feel.
Thanks, man.
All right, Bam. Thank you.
Likewise, not people.
Right, that was Bam Adebayo last night after the Miami Heat lost the game against the Atlanta Hawks. So let's look at the lineup today. The starting five for the Miami Heat is going to be Kendrick Nunn, Jimmy Butler, Duncan Robinson, Trevor Ariza, and Bam Adebayo. Kendrick Nunn, Jimmy Butler, Duncan Robinson, Trevor Ariza, and Bam Adebayo. So thank you very much for joining us today in our pregame show. Remember, we're going to be doing the live score here on the 5 Reasons YouTube channel, so you guys can get here and we can comment on what's going on during the game. And then right after the game's over, we're going to be having the post-up show, of course, as we usually do right after the game. And you guys can also come there. You're welcome to come join us and talk about the game and what went on, and if the Miami Heat can come back to winning ways. So thank you to Jermaine, to Gago Film, Gaming on Films, to Ellie, Michael. You guys are having a great debate here and a conversation. Thank you for joining us here for the pregame show. David Smith also send your comments. ZB0, Talking Movies, Ben, Kent, all of you, thank you very much for your comments. And we will see you later tonight. Remember, here in a couple of minutes, we're going to start the live scores streaming, so you guys can get there in time. Go get ready. Go get your Biscayne Bay brew, and then come back to watch a game with us and have fun there commenting. Yoriemar Lozano, the Miami can get in the final. We'll see what happens first. They have to make it to the playoffs, and right now they will be playing in a playing tournament. So that's not the place this team was supposed to be at the beginning of the season, and we'll see what happens. 12 games left, and they are 2.5 games behind the Knicks, who are in 4th place in the Eastern Conference. So we'll see you later tonight. Thank you very much again for all your super chats. Keep sending those messages. We love every time you do that, and that way you can support us as well, so we can continue doing all this content for you guys. Have a good night. Enjoy the game, and we will see you here in a little bit for the live score and then on the post-up show hosted by Royal Shepherd. Have a good one, and go Heat.